Still paying hundreds of dollars for prescription glasses? Let's change that. At Zenni.com, our factory direct model means no middlemen or outrageous markups. Just the same quality frames and lens options as the other guys for 1/10 the price. Zenni offers prescription glasses starting at $6.95, as well as affordable sunglasses, blue blockers, and more. The best part? Try any frame, anywhere, with our 3D virtual try-on. Visit Zenni.com today and change the way you buy glasses forever.
Who are you texting?
My therapist.
You text with your therapist?
Text, video chat, call. Yep.
That sounds too easy. How did you find her?
I just went to betterhelp.com/save. She's a licensed therapist and it's all online. I connect when it's convenient for me and don't waste time driving anywhere. Plus, it's affordable.
I wonder if I should try it.
It's great to talk to someone in confidence. She's helped me sort out quite a few things. And right now you save 10% off the first month when you go through betterhelp.com/save.
betterhelp.com/save. Got it.
All right, it's another film study. It's week 15. It's time to break down the defense. Ken McKusick, how you doing?
Life's good, Josh. How about you?
I'm doing well. It was fun to be in Jacksonville area as I watched the Jacksonville Jaguars get killed. And a lot of hype going into this game for people around here who were all excited about Minshew being back. And then once the game started, I didn't understand why.
He didn't look so bad personally. I thought he threw some good touch passes under a lot of pressure. But boy, that offensive line, I was kind of led to believe that was not as bad as could be at this time for a team like Jacksonville, and they were terrible.
Yeah, well, it ended up being a win-win because the Jets won. So the Jags then, in turn, won because they now both have one loss or one win seasons. So people down here are excited about a chance for a high draft pick.
If there was ever a team that deserved the number one pick, it's Jacksonville over the Jets after that tanktastic loss the Jets had a couple weeks ago. So.
Right, the Jets should have 2 wins. All right, but Coach is joining us. Coach is back on the show. How's it going down there?
I'm going good. A lot of rain going on, but Christmas break is here, so watched a great game yesterday and wasn't really busy, so I decided to hop on. Had an open spot.
Thanks so much for doing it, Ivan. You're one of our favorite guests, and we'll love talking football for the next hour or so. Tell folks your Twitter handle and about your YouTube channel.
My Twitter handle is Coach Evans9, and you'll get a lot of Ravens content on top of some high school football, just some general everyday laughs. I'm a huge jokester, so I love cracking jokes, and that's normally what you see on there. And on YouTube, I'm Sip the Tally Films. I do a lot of Ravens content, well, almost all Ravens content. And recently just put out a video before we started about Greg Roman, that second drive he had that I thought was pretty masterful as far as the play calling and whatnot. And I just put a video out about that.
They're sure that'd be fun to watch. Those videos are always great. Lots of inside coaching tidbits. I love to watch them. And that's Sip to Tally Films. That's SIP, the number 2, and then Tally, TALLY, for YouTube videos. Comfortable win at last. Dialed back the playbook usage a little bit in that second half on defense in particular. On offense as well, but on defense in particular. What do you take from that in terms of beating a admittedly fairly bad team that handily?
What I take from is the fact that we found a way to protect the DBs, or the lack of DBs that we had. The guys up front kind of did their job good enough where the guys on the back end couldn't get exposed. Because Chark is not a slouch. Chark had a great year maybe 2 years ago, maybe last year, with a ton of yards, ton of great catches. Chenault's kind of shifty. So the front end and the back end kind of married together, as Warren Sapp used to say.
We'll get to talk about both things as we move forward in this episode a little bit. But before we do that, Josh, you're up.
All right, my bookie again. The promo code Ravens. You guys know all that. You know the Ravens. You know my bookie. You know that as we finish this season, the Ravens are continuing to be favorites, so you can hop on the Ravens and make yourself a little bit of money. But what you don't know is that it's Christmas season, so they are now starting promotions, giving stuff away just like they did for Thanksgiving. So head on over to MyBookie for their 6 days of giveaways, and use your promo code RAVENS when you deposit, and they'll match you up halfway on building your bankroll. So if you put in $200, then you'll get an extra $100 to play with. It's joining is easy, depositing is easy, taking your money out is easy. So treat yourself to some extra cash in your pocket this holiday season by investing in your intuition.
What do we got for a line on that Ravens game this next week, Josh?
I was just starting to pull it up. I don't see it listed yet on over on my bookie.
Okay, I've been seeing 10, 10.5. So when it comes up, I'm sure it'll be something similar on my bookie. But anyway, that's a game to look for. You feeling comfortable about that kind of a spread in the game coming up, Ivan, against a team like the Giants?
Yes and no. But just know that when we got that safety versus who was that? The Cowboys, maybe.
Well, they got against Jacksonville just this last week.
The safety 2 weeks ago.
Oh, the Browns, right.
I went straight to my bookie because I covered on my bookie.
Yes.
That's good.
But that spread, I try to stay away from double-digit spreads. I try to because they're it's the NFL. Mm-hmm. And like the Jets, threw one out the hat the other day. So I try to stay away from the double-digit spreads, but some of them are, you think of slam dunks and just got to go for them because they dangle it out there so good for you.
All right. Well, let's talk about the roster adjustments the Ravens made to this game beforehand. And it's been really interesting watching the transactions on Saturday because they are complex and multi-category transactions they're making every week. But in this, I want to simplify it a little bit and just look at the number of cornerbacks and the number of defensive backs because they had 5 cornerbacks on the injury report during the week. In fact, every cornerback, except for Marlon Humphrey, congratulations on the Pro Bowl, was on the injury report during the week.
It's wild the way we've been able to maneuver the injury report, the COVID list, and all those things, and still be in contention to make a run. It's a shout out to the culture because guys are coming in off the streets, buying into and learning the system fast and getting out there and having to produce. Yeah. And it's just a compliment to Wink and the rest of the defensive staff to get those guys prepared and not put them in situations where they can be exposed as much.
Yeah, I agree. The coaches deserve a lot of credit. The general manager's job in this year is tremendously difficult as well to go out and get talent and be able to have enough foresight to determine what positions you need. Even with a 16-man practice squad this year or whatever it is, it still doesn't seem like enough when it takes so long to get somebody in the building after you get injury news. So it's a very difficult fence to be straddling all through the year. Anyway, they also activated 5 defensive linemen for the game. They activated 5 cornerbacks for the game. That's important. They only activated 4 last week, and they ended up with Levine at slot corner for a few snaps in that towards the end of that game, which was scary to say the least in a 45-42 game or whatever the score was exactly at the time. But it wasn't obviously what the Ravens would want. They did activate 5 cornerbacks for this game, although as we know, 3 of them had been on the injury report during the week. Jimmy Smith and Marcus Peters, 2 of their 3 best, are off, were out for the week. And they had to bring up Pierre Desir, who we've never seen play, but he's already been Man of the Year or the award that Campbell won last year, right?
Yes.
For the Jets this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So probably a good person, not necessarily a great cornerback.
And I don't think he played a snap. Did he?
No, he didn't play snap. In fact, they didn't play anybody but their top 3 corners. So that was one of the really odd things is the Ravens only played 5 defensive backs in this game. And I was going to try and look back to the last time that had happened because I've got the records, of course, from every game. But any game they played dime, they've automatically played 6. So the question is, when did it last occur? And I think it's been years. I think it may have been several years since it's happened. So maybe since the Dean Pease, I'm never going to play dime to save my life years that it really happened. Also in this game, 5 defensive linemen active. So last week they had 5 active, but Campbell was one of them, and he was really walking around wounded. And all they really did this week was replace Campbell with Washington. Not a huge change, but you really notice in some of the things that Wink did that they were really trying to conserve defensive snaps. Defensive line snaps.
Yeah, most definitely. They had I think I saw Malik out there a lot. I saw Ford out there a lot, and you normally don't see all three of those guys out there a lot. And they played a good amount of snaps together, I think, to go along with trying to keep those defensive linemen fresh.
Right. So to keep the defensive line fresh, they can do a couple of things. One is they avoid jumbo nickel, and two is that they play a lot of standard nickel maybe instead of base. So they did some of each of those things. But then the other thing they can do is they play race cars. They only have one defensive lineman on the field with 4 outside linebackers. So they have a couple different ways to get there, but they really did it. And what helped more than anything was they held the Jags to 56 snaps in this game. So that'll do it. But anyway, good game of holding down the total defensive line play. I'm with you on the cornerback play, though, that I think they did a part in supporting the pass rush. Anthony Averett, we saw a different guy than played against Dallas 2 weeks ago.
Most definitely. And that's one of the guys I've been on his team from early in the year. A ton of people were, bashing Averett, and I kind of, took it upon myself to put some video out on how well I think he can play. I don't think he's a Marlon Humphreys. He's not a number 1 or number 2 corner, but he definitely can be serviceable as your slot guy. Well, not your slot guy, but as an outside guy to maybe move somebody to the slot. Mm-hmm. He's not a slot corner, but he can go on the outside and hold his own for the most part because he has one thing that you really can't coach. He can fly.
Good length, too. He's got that aircraft carrier size, so it's what you want in a cornerback. And I very, very happy to have him out there. Really surprising how little they targeted him. So Minshew, they didn't chase any receivers. So wherever Chark was, they let whoever was there, Tramon Williams in the slot, Humphrey, Averett, whoever it was, play him. And they have all big receivers. Minshew was happy to go after all of them, but he really seemed to be going after Marlon Humphrey in this game. He had a lot of targets, close to 10, where Averett, I had him for, I believe, 4 with 3 complete. And Tramon Williams had maybe 3 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. It was in that neighborhood. So, of all the passes thrown in the game, a lot of them were targeting Humphrey, and including the touchdown at the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't really think Minshew was necessarily targeting Humphrey. I think he was just going through his progression and going to the guy he think was going to be open. Like you said, they have a ton of big receivers, and they lost their biggest receiver early in the game, the kid from Texas, Colin, whatever his name is. He's like 6'6". So, and Chenault's probably their smallest guy, but he's probably the toughest to bring down because he's like a little running back. And, like I say, Chark is fast and big, and they had one other guy, I can't remember his name, that was pretty big.
Chris Conley.
Conley, that's the guy, number 18. So, I don't think he was just necessarily targeting Marlon, because if he was, we need to check him for drugs. But, but I think he was just going through his progression and trying to hit the guy that, he thought was going to be open.
Yeah, it's Averett 2 weeks ago played a ton of soft zone coverage, and that's what the Ravens did. They got him on the back end of cover 3. They got him in some situations where they could run easy stop routes against him, or easy comeback routes, easy back shoulder stuff on the sideline. And he was just allowing those catches to be made in front of him, making the tackle pretty quickly. Didn't do badly in terms of missing tackles, but he was a better cornerback than he put on display in that game. He was just being told to play off these receivers. It was not his choice, I don't think.
And this game, you actually saw him break on some balls and force some incompletions, which is, a complete opposite of what you just spoke of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good PD up high against a tall receiver early in this game that denied a third down. So that was a good one. Tramon Williams, I thought, was pretty solid in the slot. It wasn't like he's at 38 years old. He's moving at the same rate as these receivers, but they can use him to do a few different things. They used him to rush the quarterback again, as the Ravens do, off the slot a little bit. And he gives you a little bit more coverage ability in, say, either a short zone or in man against a receiver to make that window a little bit tighter for the quarterback.
Yeah, crafty veteran. Not the fastest anymore, but he has a ton of football knowledge, a ton of football snaps in his past. So he kind of has a general idea of how to make up for his seasoned nature.
All right, that's a good way. All right, no other cornerback saw the field. We talked about that a little bit. Let's talk about the defensive line, because I thought these guys and the edge setters in particular completely dominated the game. The Jaguars, let's see, they had 22 attempts for 62 yards, 2.8 yards per carry in this game. So the Ravens shut down the run game. The 3 guys who were down linemen, or the three guys in the middle among the five that they had, were just all outstanding with one exception. Wolf, I thought, was an Iron Man. Again, he does it week after week where he makes a couple of big plays and is in there for the most snaps of all.
Matabike is stepped up.
Oh, yeah.
Wolf is... I didn't think Wolf was a run stuffer. I thought Wolf was a third down, stunt type guy, but he's completely proved me wrong. And maybe he's been forced to do that because of the injuries and the COVID whatnot, but he's turned out to be a huge signing. Signing. And the other, let me see, Matabike, and who else was in there? Brandon Williams was terrific. Was terrific, right? Yeah. I can't say enough about what Brandon is doing. And I thought he was going to have a drop off because him and Pierce was kind of figured each other out, and then Calais has not played as much, but he stepped his game up big time.
Yeah, you can really still see how this line will be even better when they get Calais back and really healthy. I mean, not they've had him back a little bit and not healthy hasn't made the difference. But Matabike, boy, there's a player who the Ravens really need to step up because this is a very old defensive line. They're talking about re-signing Derek Wolfe now. That's been discussed now for the last week to 10 days, I would say. We still haven't heard official word yet, but I am expecting that he'll be signed for another 2 years probably, not just another one. I don't think you'd bother with an in-season signing unless it's going to be a 2-year deal.
Right.
Yeah. You be excited about that?
Oh, I love it. How old is Wolf? Is he?
Wolf is 30 this year, so he'll be 31 and 32 when we buy him this season.
I think two years out of that, because once Calais is an anomaly with his age and still able to do the things he do. So pushing 31, 32, maxing out at 33, then you kind of try to roll guys up out of there. But the fact that you have a Matabike there that's probably 22 or 23. That's going to help. You got a guy that, he can learn from Wolf. He can learn from Campbell. He can learn from Brandon. He can learn from that guy. So, having that young guy there to learn from those three vets. And then I'm sure you're going to, try to cipher more young guys in there to kind of fill that role as you filter the older guys out.
Right. They really need to do that. And they did draft Broderick Washington in the 5th round. And honestly, that hasn't worked out so far. Now, it may be just a rookie trial by fire that didn't really work out, but he's kind of invisible in this game. I think he had 18 snaps. I'm going to bring it up here for a second. But Washington had 14 snaps in this last game, and he kind of lagged behind. When he was on the field, the Jaguars did more offensively than when he was not. So including 10.6 yards per pass play with him on the field. He has not been the guy they would hope they would get, but he's been forced into more action than rookies normally do. And the alternative is somebody like last year, that Daylon Mack, who looked like he might be the Ravens' great nose tackle, ended up playing 8 snaps and he's already gone.
Right. He's in a situation where he's had the opportunity to show his worth. And most times in NFL, the best way to learn is by playing, and he's had the opportunity to play. So that's kind of on him to not put good tape out there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the guy who last year got more got more playing time than you would expect is Ferguson. He played a trial by fire level of snaps this year. It should be that his play this year should be an increased level from his rookie year, and it isn't. But it's, I think that he's done some things better this year that are very positive. And he was part of the group that really set the edge in this game as well, because it's not just those linemen. Those linemen had to hold the point of attack. But those edge setters were constantly folding that edge over. McPhee, I thought Ferguson did a good job. Now, we saw the one pass interference penalty, which I thought was kind of ticky-tack. Right. How'd you feel about that, by the way?
I thought it was ticky-tack, but the fact that he wasn't even really chasing Bowser on that interception, that, they kind of had to call that, and the fact that, how they protect quarterbacks. But as far as Ferguson, last year he was just bull rush. This year he's added edge setting. I think he should, this third year he has to do something in the pass rush game. He has to, or he's going to be looking to be, at the end of his rookie contract, out of there. I mean, he's improved his game because he definitely can set the edge, when he's focused. But I think it got kind of lax toward the end, and with that pass interference. I mean, not with the pass interference, with the roughing on the interception, just lost focus. But he hasn't improved in pass rush. but he has improved the edge setting. But in order to stay with us, we need all that. We need the total package because Bowser is going nuts.
Right. It's going to be difficult next year, but the Ravens have to figure out a way to keep one of Bowser or Judon, I think, now. I don't think Judon is the practical answer because of the second franchise tag giving him additional leverage in any contract negotiations. There'll be not too much money available in the league. It may be that Bowser's available at a discounted rate. It may well be that Bowser is, or that Judon is. I think it makes more sense, and it's more likely that Bowser would agree after this year to maybe a 2 to 3 year deal that would give him the financial security to make him safe and also allow the Ravens to derive a little bit of that benefit. There's not a lot of reason for it. And some teams like the Patriots, who have a lot of money to spend, should be in great competition for the services. Unfortunately, the Jets are in that group too, and they're going to love him. So it's lots of competition for his services, but I do expect that the Ravens will make a try to get him because he's so critical right now.
Yes, he's playing a good amount of ball, a good high-quality level of ball that I really didn't expect from him this year. He's been a pleasant surprise to see him get out there and do the things he's done.
Yeah. So he did a good job edge setting this. We got several positive edge setting notes on him. We mentioned Ferguson already. McPhee had a really good game setting the edge. All of them did well. Judon did not do much to set the edge, honestly. He was used mostly as a pass rusher in this game. But boy, when you get your quarterback out of an interception the way he did right off the bat with that sack for a safety, that's just fine.
That was big time. He one of the first times he just straight up beat a guy without a secondary move. Straight up beat him, and kind of he wasn't the only one that beat his guy. He got there first, but there were two other guys there to kind of crush in on that sack. Right. Even though I think Judon got the credit for it because he was there first. But that was one of the first times he just straight up beat a guy without having to use a secondary move or the quarterback holding the ball.
Yeah, McPhee, you're right. It wasn't a cleanup at all, but McPhee would have had that sack and also had it not be a cleanup if he had not done it. Minshew, frankly, did not get rid of the ball with the urgency necessary from his own end zone on that play.
Exactly. He held it. That ball should have came out right now. It should have been a running play. There was no pump faking going through reads. When you're in the end zone, your clock goes to zero fast, and his didn't.
There you go. Jawan Taylor, the right tackle on that play, got beat pretty bad. He got beat a few times on the day. I'm sorry, it wasn't the right tackle. He beat the tight end on that play.
Yes, tight end.
That's who he did. So, yeah, maybe it's more understandable how he beat, who was it, Eifert or O'Shaughnessy, whichever one it was. I think it might have been number 80. I think it might have been O'Shaughnessy he beat on the play. So, anyway, a little more understandable why Judon would be able to beat him. What else we want to say? Anything else about the defensive line or the edge setting or the run defense in this game?
I will say that I was impressed with the way we shut down their stretch. Their rookie running back has a chance to break some records, and one of his bigger plays or better plays was the stretch or outside zone, whatever term you want to put on it. They did a good job of keeping our gap integrity and not letting that play be one of the plays that beat us. The only play I really even saw him get burst on was a little ISO play, and he ended up running over about 3 people. He hit Queen, hit Avery, hit somebody else. I think for like a 10 or 11-yard gain. And
that was pretty much right up the middle. That was that he did. They did get the good point of attack blocks on that play, and then Queen missed a tackle. That stretch play, a stretch zone. So you're a coach, and you're coaching the defense in that case. What are the main things you need to do to shut down a stretch play? I would take a guess at a couple of things, but why don't you tell us, and then I'll maybe ask about some things.
Well, I'm gonna tell you here. And then tomorrow night, you guys can watch me talk about it because it's in the video I'm doing tomorrow.
Oh, great.
But the thing is just to string it out. To stay in your gap and string it out to the sideline. And that's what they did. From the naked eye, I hadn't examined it because I try to do that on live so you can get my honest reaction. But from the television view, it looks like everybody stayed in their gap and just strung it out to the sideline. Because offensively, what the offense wants you to do is to overplay it so they can cut back.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm the defensive tackle on the run side of the play, on the front side of the play.
Okay.
I still want to cross the face of my opponent if I can, right, with that zone blocking scheme?
If you're a one tech, if you're in front side A gap, you want to stay in front side A gap.
Okay,
But you're going to go with the play. You don't want to cross a guy's face, and then that puts you and somebody else in the same gap. That's the overplay that the running back is waiting on.
Okay. So do I play that guy straight up and at least try and force him backwards to bubble the running back?
That's one way to do it.
Okay.
Penetration kills any outside zone. But if you're not going to get penetration, you need to stay in your gap and make sure you take your gap horizontally with the play. Okay. The first time you get in the wrong gap, or you cross the face, or you get hooked, so to speak, that the O-lineman hook you, that's the alley that the running back's looking for. Because all he's doing is probing, waiting on somebody to overplay it, or for him to see grass. As soon as he sees, he's going to stick his foot and go. And we did a good job of taking that play from wherever the start was to the sideline, and then just making a tackle toward the sideline. I know on 3 occasions it was done.
Okay, so now I'm the 3 tech on the play side. I'm the 3 tech on the front side, and I do overplay the play. Don't I have anybody behind me, like specifically the linebacker trailing the play by a gap, who should be the guy that I have to trust to clean up my mess?
He should be, but that's what the center or the guard that's inside of you should be working to that guy anyway. So if you cross the face of one guy, the next guy just gonna step right, see you gone, and go up to the linebacker. The linebacker's probably gonna be blocked. So he's there to clean up for you, but he's gonna have to shed an O lineman to clean up that mess.
Okay, that's even a bigger mistake you're making. So you keep stretching it out, man for man, all the way to the sideline. Eventually, he runs out of room and ability to cut back space.
The guy on the backside, the unblocked guy, has to be extremely patient.
Okay, and what depth should he get? Because that's one thing I've seen on the reverses this year is the containment guy gets lazy and stays too close to the line of scrimmage instead of getting the proper depth to play the reverse. Because if you don't have that proper depth initially, my thought only is the reverse is already gone. You're going to get beat to the edge very badly. If you have the depth, you can usually make up ground to the line of scrimmage for that cutback run.
I think you should just squeeze it and just kind of stay at at max 1 yard on the other side of the ball. At max
1 yard, huh?
At max. That way you can see, because normally most reverses have a bubble to them. You can see them coming if you're at the right level. As long as you don't turn your shoulders, you should be good. Unless the reverse guy straight up can outrun you. That's the only thing. A lot of times that reverse guy can outrun you.
Yes.
So a lot of reverses are played well in the NFL, but the guy that's getting reversed is normally faster than most edge guys.
That's true. The guy I'm used to thinking about being the reverse killers of all time are like Trevor Price and Rob Burnett, who are not among the fastest players at the point in their career I'm thinking about them doing this. And what they always got is they always got the really good depth in the backfield to shut down that reverse. And they knew how to, I guess probably they saw it coming from further away, could get the greater depth.
Use angles.
Yeah. So force the guy deeper right into your hands as well. So
the thing is when they see it coming, don't run at the guy. Run at a point where you want to try to meet him because you know where your help is coming from. As long as you don't let him get outside, you should be good because you should have other guys flowing back to help you. The thing is, just don't do whatever it takes not to let him get outside of you.
All right. That's terrific inside football there, Coach. Appreciate the discussion there. Let's talk a little bit about packages here because the Ravens used a very limited set of packages in this game. And some of it was some of the things we talked about earlier about not wanting to overuse defensive linemen. So I'll kind of go through this quickly. They did not play any jumbo. Of course, the Jaguars never ran a play inside the 13-yard line in the entire game. So that was kind of made it easy. They never had a third and short where the Ravens overplayed it with 4 defensive linemen or anything like that. It wasn't that kind of a game where they really needed to. Base, they had 14 snaps of. Now, the Jaguars played all kinds of different personnel groups. They played 12, they played 13, they played 21, and they played a lot of 6-man offensive line, which can be 12 or 13, including on that goal line, those goal line plays to start the games. The Ravens were actually in their base defense when Judon broke through for the sack.
Interesting. The fact that we got sacks versus 6 O linemen it's pretty good. They had a 6 O lineman and a tight end. Probably 2 tight ends, huh?
I think they had either 12 or 13 personnel on that. But remember, Judon was blocked by number 80 on that play, so he had a tight end that he was beating. I'd have to look at the play again. And I can't do it right now.
Even thinking about the other 2 guys we mentioned earlier, they probably beat O linemen then. Because it would have been a safety had Judon gotten blocked, because those other two guys were a hair behind Judon.
Oh yeah, McPhee definitely beat an offensive lineman. So yeah, that rush side linebacker normally be an O lineman, but they might have had 1 and 2 on the two sides on that particular play just to get out of danger with where they were. Okay, so anyway, let's give you some other information on the base defense. Base defense played pretty well in this game. 14 plays, 61 yards, 4.4 yards per play. Anytime you can hold the opponent to less than 5 yards per play in any type of defense, I think it's good. They only allowed 2.6 yards per carry on base runs. That had been a problem for the Ravens, having games where they allowed 4 or 5 or even more yards per carry in the base defense. Completely unacceptable. But this game, very back to a very good level.
It's the fact that we were able to stop the run with minimal, personnel, package. We didn't have to go in the jumbo. We didn't have to, add extra 5, 6 D linemen. We were able to do it basically out of base. Is still amazing. And then kind of, I ain't gonna say shut down the pass, but control the pass, because some of the pass plays they got, pass interference or tight throws. They didn't have a lot of guys running wide open.
No, that's true. They got a decent amount of yardage per throw, but not really good. I think they were at 5.7, including the sacks. But one of the things about the way their play results played out was that they had a lot of variation in those pass results, which included 5 sacks and a sack fumble. And that's exactly what the defense wants. What the defense ultimately would not want exactly is to give up 5.7 yards per play every single play.
Right.
It's fairly obvious why they wouldn't want that, but defense lives, and their ability to get the other team off the field is a function of how much variation they have in their pass play results. So the Ravens really got it in this game with a very aggressive pass rush we're going to get to in a minute. I mentioned before they didn't play any jumbo nickel. That's an oddball for the Ravens. They've usually been playing between 5 and 10 snaps of jumbo nickel every week as kind of a change up on their base package. Change up on their standard nickel package, I should say. And they use jumbo nickel to get a third defensive lineman on the field, take off an inside linebacker. That gives them a little more ability to stop the run in theory. But they didn't use it at all in this game. They conserved line snaps, and it's not like this conserves a ton, but by not playing, let's say, 7 jumbo nickel snaps, they basically take 7 defensive line snaps off the table. And when you're as limited as what the Ravens have been recently with injury and effectiveness on the defensive line, I think that's a good thing.
I have a question. All 4 of our inside linebackers have been getting a pretty good amount of snaps, correct?
Let me get that up for you right now here, Coach. I'll tell you what. Who do you want to know about?
I'm just thinking with Fort and Board, I think I see them in the game a ton. I think I do. If not at crucial times to kind of help us not have to play so many D linemen.
Yeah, so Board is playing the role of the dime back a lot. So he had 35 snaps yesterday, and where the Ravens would normally play the dime defense, and there's 2 ways. They could play big nickel, and he plays a little bit of that, and was 1 snap of this alternate base defense that Board was in, effectively playing a safety who would cover a slot receiver, a tight end that's split wide. So they use that against 12 personnel. He also plays effectively that dime back role, even though he's not a safety and is very definitively not a good cover guy, as the second linebacker in race car nickel or other rush nickel packages where it would normally be a dime, but the Ravens aren't playing dime this year. Ravens don't have a third safety. Frankly, that's been one of the big failures in keeping this team with the proper personnel on game day, is they don't have a third safety at all who can play.
Right.
And if Levine had to come in and play strong safety for this team, it just would not be a good thing, I think, at this point.
So when they drop Chuck down, do you consider him a linebacker, or is he still counted as a safety?
Dime back, which is a safety.
Okay.
So last year it was Chuck coming in and playing the dime back role, and Carr playing that split safety on the back end, or typically a deep safety role. A strong safety would be the easy thing to call it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Elliott played a little bit of that too last year, but I think they've been remarkably fortunate in that regard. We haven't been tested with injury concerns at safety, but the health of Elliott and Clark has just been a remarkable benefit to this team.
All right.
But
he should have had a pick too.
Yeah, he sure should have, huh? It was a good thing. He didn't even get a PD in the book, and he was clearly the first to touch the football. But the Ravens will go to the league, and they'll ask him to change that this week, I'm sure. You mentioned the other inside linebackers too, Coach. I want to get to them. So Fort played 17 snaps in this game. Harrison, who would be in the game as an either-or with Fort, because they both split that will linebacker position, had only 8 snaps. His play's been getting reduced a little bit lately. I haven't noticed him playing as much. We could look at it for the full season. I could tell you in a second. But Queen still played 46 of 56 snaps that were competitive, so he missed 10. They take him out on a fair number of pass plays, most specifically on the race car nickel he's taken out because they put in Board as the only inside linebacker in that package. For the season, we're sitting out. I'll give you the percentages for the big guys. Board's at 24.1%. Fort is at 35.2%. Harrison is at 26.2%. So he was playing more earlier in the season. And Queen is at 80.5% for the year.
Yeah, and I don't know the reasoning, but it seems to me that Queen would stay in those coverage situations. I think that what Queen messes up on is playing too fast sometimes.
Yeah, he's definitely had problems with assignments this year in terms of not really knowing. But I think the general thought and the general observation has been the last 3 weeks that his coverage decision-making has been better. His man coverage skills have never really been the problem specifically, even though he got beat on a perfectly thrown wheel route this week.
Yeah, him and Marlon.
Yeah, Marlon was... who had responsibility for that play? Because it sure looked like Queen...
Marlon's guy set a screen, a pick on... he ran a hitch that kind of stuck his butt out to try to screen off of Queen. And so Marlon, I think Marlon switched, and both of them end up chasing the running back. But that was a great catch and a great throw. I just had to tip my hat to Minshew and the running back because he couldn't have put that ball in a better spot.
No, that's exactly it. And it could have been caught any better nor taken to the pylon any better. It was just generally most coaches will tell you in the NFL that there's no defensing the perfect pass.
Right. And that was a dime, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Right in the trash can. So, definitely a positive thing. Anyway, I think we talked about the linebackers a little bit. Let's move on. Standard nickel was the meat and potatoes of what the Ravens played. 29 snaps of this 2 inside linebacker, 2 outside linebacker, and 2 defensive lineman package. It's the most balanced thing the Ravens present in terms of stopping the run or pass, and they play it in basically all 11 personnel situations unless it's an extreme down and distance situation, and then they'll replace a linebacker with a safety, or in this case, one of the basic 2 linebackers, the 2 down linebackers with Chris Board.
That's probably where I was seeing Board, because I noticed the number would flash across the screen, and I'm seeing him more and more each game, and I think I should be seeing Fort, Queen, and Harrison, but I'm seeing Board more and more, and you just kind of bagged up what I was seeing.
You know what? I'm having trouble understanding because, Fort, in this game, he had a pick. Last year, he had a pick that also got called back by penalty, by the way. And he seemed to play the pass extremely well since he got here week 5 of last year.
Yeah, right around that time. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm wondering why he hasn't got more of an opportunity to play that weak side role, or maybe just to be the proxy dime back the way Board has. It doesn't seem like I'm having a hard time understanding what it is that Board brings to the table as a coverage guy that Fort wouldn't. Board has no idea what's going on behind him on a pass play. That's the main problem. Fort has some of that ability. He may not have the ability to stop it all the time, but he has at least some of the savvy that a Ray Lewis brought to the table. And I'm not comparing him to Ray Lewis, but I'm comparing his level of savvy and understanding of what his assignment is and route concepts that can be run behind him as being a good for a linebacker and has the ability to impact passing lanes with that understanding.
He'd have to be at practice to see.
Okay.
We'd have to know his how well he knows his assignments. It's because what we see on film is not matching up with what we're seeing in the game. Because in the game, like you said, Board, I don't say he looks lost, but he's obviously not, in my opinion, not the best cover guy out there. And the fact that they keep throwing him out there in coverage situations kind of blows my mind. But I don't know how much he understands. I don't know how much Fort knows the system or can execute the system or spit the system out when asked. It's a bunch of things that we don't know that could be the reason why he's not out there. But the tape's not matching what we see.
Right. I agree. And I think there might even be a secondary reason to have Fort in the game, and that is to the degree Queen needs help, Fort has clearly been an on-field repositioner and mentor for him. Now, it takes a village sometimes with a player who really does not exactly know what's going on, but has tremendous physical gifts in order to get him positioned properly play after play. But Fort seemed to be one of the guys who they had a good communication rapport with them that was clear on camera, even when Fort is telling him he didn't do the right thing.
Right. And what even if that's the case, he's doing a great job because and probably correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen another rookie having the type of year he's having defensively. Even with those couple games where he was just completely fooled, he's making plays every game, all game. And it's crazy, how well he's playing right now as a day one starter, almost.
Yeah, it certainly is exciting to see him have a splash game again because it'd been a while, frankly, since he'd splashed the way he had with a bunch of plays. But he had a sack, a quarterback hit, had another pressure, had a good run stop for loss. There's some other play he made too. But anyway, even on the wheel route, I thought he had great coverage on the play. I don't think that was his problem. Yeah,
I thought so too.
Anyway, I don't want people to get the idea that I'm so down on Queen. I mean, Queen played 80% of his snaps as a rookie so far. Ray Lewis played 67% of his snaps as a rookie, and that was for the 1996 Ravens, who were the worst Ravens defensive team of all time. So it's not so bad by any stretch that Queen is not playing full time. I just wish they really had the personnel they needed. And honestly, what this team needs right now is a third safety who can cover. They need Geno Stone to be able to be a guy they either trust on the back end or to be able to come up and play in the box. Or they need somebody else from outside the organization, somebody like we thought Gilchrist was for a couple of weeks there, who could come in and play that dime back role or play the back end and have Clark move up in dime situations.
Yeah, I still think Warriors better than Stone, but I just want to throw that out there. But we need somebody to come in and relieve those guys because that snap count can't get too high, especially this time of year because we don't need any guys, being hurt for fatigue or any of that. Somebody's going to have to come in and just relief because, we want to save those D linemen till hopefully playoffs.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned I'm okay with either it being Warrior or Stone. I mean, Warrior's an animal, so him playing in the box might be a really good place for him to be. You want what you really want in that third safety is great short area zone cover skills. Mm-hmm. And Anthony Levine had those in spades 2 years ago. Apparently, he doesn't have them anymore, or I think he'd be out there instead of Board because we're not seeing so much from Board that he couldn't be replaced.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's keep on going. Rush nickel, they played that for 5 snaps, 3 outside linebackers on the field with a Board also replacing that second inside linebacker. That worked fine. Race car nickel, 7 snaps. The race car really got embarrassed, by the way, last week with 12.0 yards per play allowed. This week looked terrific, and they were down to, let me get this proper here, in the race car, 2.7 yards per play, 19 yards on 7 plays. That's what you need your closer defense to do. That race car, when they bring it on, they're usually trying to close out third down or close out a drive at the end of the half. And you need that defense to be effective.
No, go ahead.
All right, sorry. 0 dime snaps again in this game. I mentioned that earlier. I don't have anything else to say about packages. We can move on if we're ready to go here.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on that.
All right, let's talk.
One last thing.
Yeah.
The reason I think it's kind of a cut and dry thing because we played similar packages all game and kind of was like you said earlier, so bland in the second half that there was no need to go through a ton of different packages and put film out there for other guys to see.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Is they really wanted to keep some of the playbook close. They didn't do a lot of scheme pass rush in the second half, and they didn't put the race car nickel on the field again. They used all 7 snaps that were in the first half, and even though that had been tremendously effective, they didn't put it on again in the second half. So something's going on because those guys, I mean, if there's anything the Ravens have a lot of, it's outside linebackers. They have 5 guys they play every week, and they have a 6th guy on the team they can't even activate, even though he's one of their, better unactivated players. and if they had a spare at any position, that would be it. But anyway. All right, let's move on to the pass rush. This was really the kind of the dessert for this game for me. Minshew had a tough game in terms of ample time and space. He did have a few opportunities, 9 out of 34, 26%. Certainly a below average total where he had a 3-second pocket to throw. He also threw with the ball out quick another 8 times in this game. So there were 17 total pressure events the Ravens got. That's 50% of the time they generated some sort of pressure. It's very high for this year. We've got charts now that are split out into those 3 categories on the website. If you want to go to the gallery view, you can see them there. Really appreciate Brent Dawson putting those together for us. He's got some regular stuff out there. It just looks terrific. But anyway, the 50% pressure events, 5 sacks, 2 other quarterback hits within 3 seconds, and 10 individual pressure events. So it was a very, very impressive day for the pass rush, beating a line that did not really seem to be cohesive.
Yeah, we needed that. The defense needed that. They needed it because we've been hammering, fans have been hammering that we're not getting enough pass rush. And I understand that it's the Jacksonville Jaguars and they haven't won but 1 game, but still, we needed that. We needed a game where those guys maybe got confidence and realized, oh, we can get home with 4, or we can get home with 5 without doing these exotic blitzes. And they just needed to pin their ears back and get after it. But the fact that we had a lead helped also.
Yes, it kind of always does to kind of pin your ears back to that impact. They rushed 5+ on 19 out of 34. That's one of the things that Wink really didn't skimp on in this game. They had 3 7-man rushes, including the safety was a 7-man rush. 56% of their time they rushed 5+. That's well above their season average, which is in the low 40s. They were much more effective, however, when they rushed 4 or fewer. They gave up only 4.1 yards per play when they rushed 3 or 4, and when they rushed 5+, they gave up 7.3 yards per play.
And that's probably having those more DBs in there to cover those zones when we rush 4 or fewer. That's definitely a direct correlation of that. Because, like I said, those guys were not just running wide open for the most part.
Yeah, it was good to see them to be able to play a little bit of man concept as well, or with max protect routes to have better chances to get a good bracket going in zone coverage. Mm-hmm. But they had opportunities where you could make Minshew be very uncomfortable throwing into a bracket of 2 defenders, which, boy, that's the best way to cover him. If you have the overlapping circle, as I call it, of island coverage, there's always a place where you can put the football where your guy has a chance to get it. If you have a bracket coverage, that quarterback is scared as hell to throw the ball in there.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. If you get a bracket coverage, that read should just not be a part of your read. You should just go to the next read. But guys that have the gall to throw it, normally it's intercepted or incomplete. But occasionally you'll get a Hopkins or somebody like that can catch those balls.
Yeah, it's the interesting one in this game, and I guess it was actually zone coverage, but it was still impressive because there was a 5-pointed star of players collapsing on Mark Andrews on that long ball down the left seam, left numbers, between the left seam, left numbers. Mm-hmm. That was one of those plays that he just said go up and get it, Mark, and he trusted him to get it. But I don't think he trusts anybody else. I don't think he trusts Miles Boykin with that ball.
No, not yet. Miles has come a long way, but not yet.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else we want to talk about in the pass rush? 18 individual blitzes from off the line of scrimmage. So they really went crazy with all kinds of zone blitz pressure. They dropped players from the line of scrimmage effectively. They did that 7 times. They dropped 2+. They had 4 stunts. All 4 of the stunts resulted in some sort of pressure generated. And one thing that comes to mind is, why don't you stunt more against an offensive line? That 2 things are happening. One is they don't seem to know each other all that well. And number 2 is Minshew's holding the ball what seems like a little longer than some of the other quarterbacks the Ravens have faced.
Right. And I thought that would be what Wolf was kind of brought in for, because he worked so well with Von Miller on stunts. So I thought that would be one of the pluses of us signing Wolf, to have maybe him and Judon do things, or him and Calais, or just him and somebody else, because he was so good at taking that first guy and moving him out the way, clearing a path for the other blitzer.
Yeah, and those guys all credit Wolf with that. I think he's been a terrific underneath guy, but I've loved the fact that he can be the under or the over guy on the stunt. That's really money. But as the underneath guy, particularly with some of the Ravens' other quickness they have with Bowser and Judon and Matabike too, to a degree, you have three very quick players who can make that second block peel off Wolf so quickly that Wolf then gets a highly advantageous pass rush opportunity as the under player. Anyway, I love what we've seen with Wolf, and I agree. I love the stunts. What happens is, though, when you have 18 off-ball blitzes, they're not allowed to call their ad hoc stunts by the players inside the game. See, normally they aren't scripted to not do it on certain plays. They have the freedom to just agree between themselves they're going to stunt on this play when they think they see something, which is nice, by the way. You want your defensive coordinator to have the trust in you to say, yeah, it's okay to do it here.
Is the fact that they're rewarding Wink with their effort, their play with doing that is a huge plus, because early in the year he would make calls and they weren't executing the job, so to speak. And so it's good to go back to them executing what he's called, and they can all get on the same page, even if it was the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm. So Calais Campbell had a video that he did with NFL Films in the offseason. He said he was allowed with the Jaguars, this was, to call a stunt anytime he wanted in the game. The only thing he had to do was not do it when they had a blitz coming in behind, because then they're trying to focus pressure in a certain place and they have to set up that pressure as opposed to doing their own thing and wildcatting. And that makes all kinds of sense. And in a game where they blitz 18 times off the line of scrimmage, they can't do as many stunts. And it probably tells me that it might be advantageous to call a few less blitzes from off the line of scrimmage if you're Wink, if your stunts are going so well. Right.
But the thing is, you have to trust the guy. You have to trust the person who's going to make that call. Mm-hmm. And I think, me personally, if I was Wink, I would only give that freedom to Calais.
Okay, not to Wolf.
I would only give that freedom to Calais.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, so Wolf is mostly a setup guy, and he's going to be the guy calling it. It's the setup guy that I trust. It's the talented under guy that I want calling my stunts, not the over guy. I don't want Von Miller, even if I'm in Denver, saying, you stunt here, I'm going to loop around you kind of thing. Even though Von Miller's great, I don't want him, basically compromising everything I'm doing on that side of the line of scrimmage to call his own blitz.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But what Wolf puts me in the mind of is Dennis Rodman. And not because of the tattoos, because if you think about Dennis Rodman when he played with the Bulls, all the rebounds, all the defensive, nasty, dirty work that you don't get a lot of pub for, you don't get a lot of glory for, but it's necessary to win. Mm-hmm. That's what Wolf's giving us.
Yeah. He's been a terrific player. I don't think the Ravens fans are missing it. It's, the Pro Bowl is a crowded place, and it honestly wouldn't be the place where Wolf would get rewarded because of the Ravens' rotational system. But it would be nice for a player like that, who's a kind of an unheralded underneath guy on stunts, to get a Pro Bowl bid one time in his career at least, even with the kind of the limited role he has that's specific. But without him, the Ravens' defensive line would have collapsed this year.
And that Pro Bowl is a popularity contest, so it's going to be tough to get them in now.
There you go. All right, so let's see. What else we want to talk about here? We talked about pretty much everything in the pass rush. Let's go ahead and move in and talk about some individual players, because I think I've been really looking forward to hear from you, Coach. But you go ahead and start with the first call.
My first individual player has become one of my favorite Ravens. Is Anthony Avery. I love what Avery was able to do, because if going into the season, Avery was our 5th corner, and Sunday he was our 2 corner. And he, to me, did not disappoint. He had a couple balls caught on him, but for the most part, did his job, was in coverage, was in phase. Nobody really burnt them, so to speak, for a big play. And the fact that I saw him physically break up a couple passes is an improvement, because normally, like you said earlier, guys just catch the ball in front of him and he tackled them. So he came up and made a couple tackles. He broke a ball up, I was ecstatic for it, because people were hammering Avery at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very good to see, and he didn't allow a lot of damage. So he got that pass breakup was on Chris Conley, which is a 6'3" guy you mentioned earlier, so a big tall receiver. So that's nice to see. but he was targeted 3 other times for 25 yards. They were all complete. 8 yak as I scored it. So 17 plus 8, giving up 8 yards a throw on 3, that's not bad at all when you throw it in. Then the really great play he had that I'll remember is the upending of Chenault on that 2-yard pass near the left number. So that's late in Q3, and Chenault got a ball, basically got the reception right at the line of scrimmage. Averett undercut him. Chenault he's basically A.J. Brown.
Yes.
I mean, he's same build, same everything in terms of a guy who can really make things happen after the catch. A lot of people wanted him for the Ravens. Probably in the second round, they would have really loved to have him. But anyway, he on that play, he undercut him, and it was pretty much the only way, I think, hitting him there that he could have taken him down.
Yeah, that's the tackle I was speaking of, too. That's one of the things that stood out to me. Open field tackle, because there was no help. It was one-on-one, and he got him down.
Yeah, that's very, very nice to see. I couldn't say enough good about Averett. To be only targeted 4 times in this game when Minshew dropped back. Well, he dropped back 34 times. He threw 29 balls, but even 4 out of 29 going to Averett, that's terrific.
Yep.
You only have a few cover guys. And, I mean, frankly, they only had a few guys out in the pattern.
Exactly.
So,
The only other guy that I can kind of say stood out to me would be Wolf, which we talked about, but Matabike.
Yeah.
Sitting in his gap and, making a few tackles at the line of scrimmage or right behind, but simply just doing his job. And, not a whole lot of splash, but the fact that he's where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there, and then when the opportunity presents itself, he makes the tackle. So my hat's off to that guy being a rookie, being thrown in the fire behind probably a Hall of Famer and some other pretty good guys, and just going in there and balling.
Yeah, I think he probably is taking the opportunity to learn from. The one thing we saw from Justin here, and I didn't really notice this on a little bit of college tape, not nearly as much anyway, very violent hands in the second half. Much more hand play. He had a play, I forget whether he beat the left guard or the right guard on the play, but he beat him with violent hands to get outside and then get in for a pressure. That was very impressive. I thought he pursued down the line of scrimmage extremely well. Now, he's a quicker guy, so you expect him to be one of those guys who can pursue effectively over a short or even medium distance.
Right.
But I thought he did a very good job of that. He's not a passive defensive lineman. He's not a 342 pounds of I'm not going anywhere like they used to describe Tony Siragusa.
Now, the thing is, and I don't know what the D-line coach is coaching him, but the few opportunities we got a chance to hear Calais mentor those guys, he always talk about violent hands. Talk about violent hands. So I don't know if that's Calais rubbing off on him. I'm sure it's a combination of Calais and the coach, but we definitely we got a chance as fans to hear Calais talk to the whole group about violent hands.
One of the things I noticed from the second half, and the hands are what Ferguson needs to need. I wish Ferguson would pick up on some of that ability. And honestly, you hear about, Phil Simms talks about, has discussed before anyway, that edge setters or guys who play or top pass rushers will take karate and they'll take other things to try and make their hands faster, make their reactions quicker. But I think it's really about anticipating move and counter move. So you're really trying to read the other guy's hands as much as you need to move your own hands quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think there's only a few players who can probably get away with that one-handed pass rush and have the strength and the speed of an Ngakoue, say, to get outside and play with one hand. Other guys, they really need to punch and then chop, or they need to do some combination of moves to get by most players. We see McPhee do it. He's maintained his ability as an outstanding pass rusher to this age, with those great hands.
That's what it's all with. As far as I know, it's hands then feet with the D line. Mm-hmm. Hands then feet. Hands first, then feet. Hands hip then feet. I'm sorry. Hands hips then feet.
Hands hip then feet. All right. Okay, so I want to make one other point about Matabike. Now, I mentioned earlier, and Coach, you brought this point up too, is that they really went to kind of a vanilla scheme look in the second half in terms of the pass rush and in terms of a lot of the package usage not coming out with race car. Matabike had 5 pressures in this game. All 5 came in the second half when things were much more vanilla. And I'm just looking across the score sheet. They rushed 6 men once in the second half. It was all 5s. It was mostly 5 zeros or 4 zeros during that second half. They had one, 3-man rush, actually 2 3-man rush, one of which got home for a sack fumble. But anyway, my point is they're going with a much more vanilla scheme and fewer total outside linebackers on the field. And they have more ability to pin their ears back maybe, but they're doing less of it with scheme. Mm-hmm. Matabike effectively got a bunch of one-on-one wins to generate those 5 pressures in the second half. It wasn't like he had a lot of benefit from other players to do it.
The thing is, when you have younger guys, and I try to do it with my kids too, if you simplify the scheme or simplify the calls and just let them play ball, you normally get good play out of younger guys. Just, simplify the calls. Look, your job is X. Do X at a high level. And that's what I'm thinking Matabike had a chance to do in that second half with the vanilla defense that was called. You're like, if you got A-gap, take care of A-gap, control it. If you're rushing the passer through A-gap, do that. Whatever the combination of calls was, it being simple enough to him to just use his athletic gifts to execute, which helped him out.
Yeah. Do you think is it as simple as play this exact assignment, or is it maybe as a coach would you tell him get to the quarterback however you can? We can take some chances in the second half. You beat your guy left or right, even though the call might normally be you only beat him to your left to maintain your rush lanes. I'm okay. You beat him either way. You use your hands. I want to see violent hands this half. Yeah,
that could be a call from the sideline. Look, we are up. Hey, work on this. We got. We gonna do this behind you. You work on whatever they send them out there to do. And it's like I said, when you simplify it and just let them guys don't think as much, when players think less and can use their physical gifts more, you always gonna have a better outcome. Always.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think we've even seen that maybe from Lamar Jackson a little bit the last couple of weeks.
2-minute drills.
Great.
Look at the 2-minute drills.
Yeah.
The plays are simple. They're fast. He executes them because there's not a lot of thinking.
It really is great to see. It makes you think the Ravens would be a good no-huddle team. It's not exactly who they want to be because they want to shift personnel groups, but boy, it would be kind of fun to see that on a different basis. Get that defense huffing and puffing. You make, you're going 2 minutes down the field, and Lamar, I don't know if he would get tired personally from the run. He might, but I have a feeling the defensive players would be a lot more tired.
And you get those, and the thing is, the D linemen these days, you don't have a lot of Gooser type D linemen. So that was the plan, and I'm probably going to go off tangent for a minute, but when Alabama lost their couple of games to Ole Miss, to Texas A&M, to Clemson, Alabama had those huge defensive tackles that were massive that you couldn't run on. But those spread teams with the mobile quarterback, you're looking at Deshaun Watson, you're looking at the Kelly kid that was at Ole Miss, and you look at Manziel. They were going left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, getting those guys tired, then hit them up the middle. And that's, that type of defensive lineman don't really have a lot of success. Like B. Will may be one of the last ones, him and Pierce, of that type of defensive lineman hanging on.
Mm-hmm. So substitution is always a big deal when they're doing that with a team like the Ravens. They get those guys often on the field. They don't play 6 straight snaps very often. I'm wondering, was Alabama in a position where they were using their guys, 75% of the game or something?
They were running the guys on and off. It's just the fact that the offense was no huddle because Saban was a big against the spread game going. Like they implemented rules where people could play faster, and Saban was one of the few people like, no, slow the game down, because he knew his personnel wasn't ready for that. And he eventually, changed because that's where the game went. But they were running guys on and off, but just, a big guy at 315, 320, 4 or 5 plays going, sideline to sideline, and he coming out. And then you run another guy in for 2 or 3 plays. So now you got a third set of, guys like that. And they may have, but you think about it. Them guys can be tired. You run the third or fourth quarter, they worn out.
Yeah. Yeah, huffing and puffing, no doubt about it. When you're coaching high school ball, what do you look for in the opponent to know that their players are tired?
Just bending over. Take how slow they get up off the pile. Okay. You look for silent tails to say, okay, we got them right here. But in Florida, it's tough because all these guys play all year round. I mean, in Mississippi it was easy. You can look over and see a guy holding his shorts and bent over, or you can see him breathing hard or getting up slow. But here in Florida, all these cats, they run around and play all day.
Okay. I was, one of the big tells in the NFL level is hands on hips. And when all 11 players have their hands on the hips after a 10-play drive, you got them.
Yeah, that one too. I missed that one, but that one definitely, yeah.
All right. I want to bring up a couple more players, and we'll get going here because we always let this conversation go too long when it's you and me, buddy. But Ferguson is a player that I wanted to talk about his game. I thought he did a decent job of stopping some edge play in this game. But one thing that was also good was when that screen pass came up, the entire line of scrimmage figured it out. Nobody was pressuring the quarterback. Ferguson got plastered himself to the running back on that play. And even though he was not pressured in any way, Minshew immediately grounded the football.
That was the one he threw at his feet. Yeah. Definitely. The entire D-line stopped.
Yep.
Entire. I don't know what gave it away, but the entire D-line stopped, and whoever was, I guess it was Ferguson, he found a running back and went and stood right beside it.
All right. Another player I want to bring up, Yannick Ngakoue. Obviously had a great game here. They're using him for what they need to use him for, which is the pass rush. They had him on for more run plays in this game. He didn't hurt the Ravens at any point on a run play. In fact, he had one nice bubble on a stretch left by Chenault. I guess it must have been I don't think he was running the backfield, so it must have been a jet sweep play where they stretched him out to the left, and it only went for a run left for 1 yard. I know he had one also where he took a direct snap. It's not that I'm thinking of. This was a Q2 1337. If you look at it after the show, you'll have a chance. But anyway, otherwise his pass rush was the best we've seen it so far. He did a really good job against Cam Robinson in terms of fanning him out, getting around the edge, getting his hand on the football like we haven't seen much so far.
Because we were always saying, and I don't know if you were saying that he was so close to getting sack fumbles or whatnot. And that so close turned into actually producing this game. I don't know if the extra juice because it was the Jags. I don't know if Cam was there when he was there, so he kind of knew, what moves that he could beat Cam with. It could have been a number of things, but I contributed to the fact that he's just been going at it, and it finally paid off this week.
Yeah, no, we had seen the chop move being his go-to move. In this case, both sacks came on a spin move. Mm-hmm. And you might want to do a video on this and just tell the viewers kind of like what's going on, frame by frame kind of thing. But very impressive inside spin moves. S-8 he got there very quickly. The sack fumble -4 was with a 3-man pass rush. Mm-hmm. You just don't see that very often. But anyway, I very impressive. The nice thing about the 3-man rush is they left a double team on Wolf, who, by the way, still made the recovery of the fumble despite having a double team on him. And that left a big fan out area, which should make it easy for Ngakoue to either go to the chop or the spin. And sure enough, it did with the spin in that case. Anyway, good other pressure. So glad to see Yannick do it. I don't get caught up in the going back to Jacksonville and getting revenge. There's something fairly pathetic about trying to get revenge on a 1-13 team.
Right.
But I do like the fact that they handled Jacksonville, who's played some other opponents tough, easily.
Right.
Anybody else you want to talk about before we move on?
We talked about most of the guys. I'm going to just mention Humphreys for a second. The fact that he was targeted the most and he probably had the most catches on him still does not take away from the fact that I think he's the second best corner in the league. Every ball that those guys caught, Marlon was right there. He was right there. And even on the pass interference, I think he got 2 maybe. He was in phase attempting to get the ball or knock it out or something. So even though they had some catches, granted they're gonna have catches. I still think for what he does for us, he's the second best corner in the NFL behind Ramsey.
You'd have a hard time disproving that argument or putting down that argument when he's got all those forced fumbles. I mean, they have tremendous value. They're like half an interception each. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they're awfully important. And he's been penalized a lot this year, which is the one thing I'm concerned about. But some of that is just the system the Ravens play, that they're putting him on an island a fair amount to either designate their coverage elsewhere or also to get schemed pass rush to get in. So anyway, he's been left alone a lot. And I think for the most part, he's taken some smart penalties. Of course, when you're going to get a pass interference call, you better just go ahead and interfere with the guy and not let him make a touchdown catch on the play.
Right.
All right, MVPs. Do you want to go 3-1, or you good? You want to just talk about who I've got on here?
Yeah, the only other guy I just wanted to mention was Anthony Averett. That's all. He's my MVP because even though he was not on the stat sheet that much, he was not on the stat sheet that much for being done.
If you're a cornerback, that's a good thing. I agree. I liked his play too. It's very hard to come up with a top 3 defenders in this because I had a lot of honorable mentions, but I'm going to start with the top 3. Madubuike is my number 3 guy. 5 pressures in the second half, made 3 tackles. They were all defensive wins in the run game. So truly exceptional game. It's exactly what the Ravens need in terms of having a young defensive lineman step up. I see you nodding. We'll move on.
Yeah, I was going to let you do your 3. That's because I talked about the guy I wanted to.
Okay, sure thing. Patrick Queen, terrific game of splash plays. We're seeing a better coverage player now, I think, these last couple of weeks. Very happy that he's getting it turned around, and he may not end up with a good PFF grade for the year, but hopefully he can play well these last few weeks and into the playoffs, just the way he did for LSU last year, improving through the year to take him to eventually the national championship.
Video on Queen Christmas Eve.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Video on Queen Christmas Eve.
Very good. Look forward to that one, buddy. Yannick Ngakoue. I always tell Yannick, it's Yannick Ngakoue. I get that. Gets the player of the game in this game. 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, other pressures, good play on a run play. He did it all in this game, and it's great to see the Ravens get a good return on who he is. Hopefully he can play out the rest of the season at a high level, whether that means getting a big contract in Baltimore or getting a big one somewhere else. Either one's okay with me.
Agreed. He's here for a reason, and hopefully we can find a way to get in the playoffs and maximize us losing a 3rd or 5th round pick for him.
Yes, they gave up a 3rd round pick, so they could possibly get a 3rd round pick the next year back. But it looks like next draft going to be pretty tight for the Ravens, particularly if they get penalized for COVID. Mm-hmm. And let's say they lost a 2nd or a 4th round pick. Either one would be devastating in terms of.
As a business owner, you eventually realize you can't do everything. You need a team to grow your business, but hiring is complicated. Belay, an innovative staffing solution, has successfully matched thousands of small businesses with virtual assistants, bookkeepers, and social media strategists to meet their staffing needs, and they can help you too. So whether you need part-time or full-time help, they have the right team member ready to help you juggle less and accomplish more. Learning more about Belay is the easiest thing you'll do today. Just go to belaysolutions.com. That's BELAY solutions.com. to find out if staffing through Belay will give you time back in your day to focus on what only you can do, while Belay finds the assistant, bookkeeper, or social media help you need.
Nerds! NerdWallet presents Money Questions Credit Card Round. Ready, Steve? No time to answer. How can you compare and apply for the best travel credit cards?
Turn to the nerds.
Where can you find the best card for your credit score?
Turn to the nerds.
For a triple point bonus, is it better to earn rewards in points or miles?
I'm kidding. Turn to the nerds.
Winner, winner!
Fiscally responsible dinner.
Game's over, Steve.
From the lowest rates to the best rewards, for all your credit card questions, turn to the nerds at nerdwallet.com.
Of the impact of COVID. And I think with the Raiders already losing a 6th, I think that puts a minimum on what the Ravens might be hit with.
Oh, because of the outbreak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, Josh, how are we doing in the mailbag today?
All right. We got a few things in here in the mailbag. Remember, you can get your questions in using the hashtag FilmStudyMailbag over at Twitter. All right. First one up. As far as the rookies this year, have any of the defensive rookies stood out this year?
Well, I think we talked on this show about Madubuike and Queen. I'm trying to think if there's any other defensive rookie. I don't think Broderick Washington has really shown out yet. He's played some, and that's good experience. But Geno Stone obviously hasn't gotten on the field. I'm trying to think, am I missing anybody? Malik Harrison, yeah.
Malik's played enough to splash some. He hasn't showed up like I thought he would, but I think eventually Malik will be the Mike and Queen will be the other the guy to kind of to do everything back. But Malik's a A-gap to A-gap guy. Does a great job of taking on blockers and not necessarily making the tackle, but not allowing blockers to get to him and bulldoze him and open up holes. He meets those guys at the line of scrimmage and brings wood with him when he does it.
I love that. Brings wood with him. It makes all kinds of sense for Harrison to be the Mike and Queen to be the Will if you're going to always put two linebackers on the field. But since the Ravens don't play that way, they play a lot of one linebacker system and a lot of dime. We expect as soon as they get a third safety who can play, it doesn't make sense anymore because the draft capital expended on Queen is too much to give up on him as an every down player just to get Harrison more Mike snaps.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the post-COVID and injuries and all. Has the silver lining of that been that we haven't been able to really show off a full front seven with Yannick?
So I'm not sure I understand the question here.
That there's not a whole lot of tape out there on what a healthy Ravens defense would look like?
I don't know if I could really point to that as being the real advantage. I kind of wish they'd won one more ball game in here above any of that. So, right. We wouldn't be the Ravens wouldn't still be needing help if they'd won one more game. Right. So, but sure, there have been benefits, I think, to the fact that, and what we saw in this game, Martindale still hiding some playbook, that they've been a little more comfortable in some of their wins than some other teams in the league. So, the Ravens are at plus 116 now, I think, in terms of points, and that might be second in the entire league in terms of point differential. So they have, even though this hasn't been all that comfortable a year, they've been able to have some comfortable games within it.
This being the most comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a little weird to say. The advantage is this guy's been hurt all season, so you haven't gotten to show him off or put any tape on when you would have rather had him. All right, looking to the future, is the biggest concern on defense the safety position?
I never think that's a huge concern because I think the guys they have on the back end are the right guys. I think Elliott and Clark actually are the guys they want to have there for the years to come. We'll see what they try and extend Elliott this year. But I think that more importantly, I think they need to get a third safety who can cover. And those guys should be cheap. Mm-hmm. Ozzie Newsome could always get one for a 6th-round draft pick or less. And I'd like the Ravens to pick up not one but 2 guys for next year that they really believe can be that guy and have that be their special teams ace / 3rd and 4th safeties.
I agree with you. Those two, I love Joker and I love Chuck, but I think run game wise, Chuck is sort of a liability when we play the bigger backs. Mm-hmm. Because he's in the right position. He just don't have enough bricks in his pocket to bring those guys down. And Joker comes down, Elliott comes down, and he smacks people. I'm thinking about that hit on Derrick Henry. Sticks out to me. But we need a guy that can cover, that can kind of go half the field, can cover a middle third, can be a free safety, a center fielder back there. So that guy should be, like you said, should be cheap. Should be a special teams guy. Should be a guy with a ton of speed to be able to do those type of things.
Yeah, so maybe next year Geno Stone is the guy they get more out of, and that he can play the half field on the back end, and they can move Elliott or Clark on a rotating basis up into the box. Because I don't think you need the bricks if it's not first or second down. If it's 3rd and 7. You want a guy who can chase down the quarterback on a run play, and you want a guy who can play good short area zone defense. And I think that's what the Ravens have had for all their great years of dime play. That's all I want, and it's not that expensive to find.
I agree.
All right, that takes care of the mailbag. Coach, you already mentioned that just like Santa, you'll be working Christmas Eve. Why don't you share about that and what other stuff you've got coming out soon?
I got trying to do a video every day this week. I put one out before we recorded tonight. And just different stuff from this game versus the Jaguars. Just trying to get it out. You can find it at Sip the Tally Films on YouTube. My Twitter is Coach Evans 9. And for those of you that have IG, it's Sip the Tally Films, but it's not a lot on IG. And my parting shot would be simply just to say to everybody, be safe. Merry Christmas. This is a crazy Christmas. This is the first Christmas that I've actually been at home because we normally go back to Mississippi. So, shouts out to everybody that's maneuvering this crazy time, and peace and blessings to all.
It's a great point. Have a really safe holiday, everybody. Coach, you especially, and your family. Josh, you as well. It's been great working with you this year. We're going to have a couple more shows before Christmas, but really can't say how much I appreciate working with you, Josh, and working with you every chance I get, Coach.
Thank you. Same here.
All right. But yeah, Ken, I was going to tell you, as you're saying that, you and I got more work this week because there's a full week of Ravens football to recap. So what's coming up?
So we have the offensive show tomorrow night. Great guest, Gordon McGinnis, coming on. So that'll be out tomorrow if you're listening to this today, which is Tuesday, right, Josh?
Yeah, evenings. We're back to the normal schedule. We didn't even talk about how great is Sunday football.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool to be back at 1 o'clock football. Definitely means I don't have to stay up for all night if I don't want to. But anyway, we'll have the Know Your Foe episode this week. We got a great guy from the Giants coming in on Thursday. We'll record by the numbers. It'll be out on Friday with Dan Reese. People have been enjoying that. Look out on the website. In addition to the offensive line article and the defensive article, you'll see these great new posts in the gallery by Brent Dawson. Terrific stuff. Really worth looking there. And Josh, thanks for all the work you did to make that happen.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to have content in all different types out there. There's also a new Situation Room that came out this morning as well, so that's up there. And again, check out Section 336, podcast I do with my brother and I, where we talk a little Ravens, but also just general life talk and a lot of Oriole talk lately. So check that out if you got a second. And remember to rate, review, share the show. If you want to give us a Christmas present, you can give us 5 stars over on iTunes or Apple Podcasts and write a little review over there. So, all right, guys. Well, we will talk again soon.
Hey, which glasses look better on me?
Oh, what's this?
Zenni's 3D virtual try-on. Pretty cool, right?
I don't know about the purple cat eyes.
I think they're fun. What about these tortoiseshell glasses? Or these rimless sunglasses? Oh, what about these clear frames?
Wait, are those prices real? Do they have glasses for men?
Yep. They also have affordable blue light glasses.
Seriously? At those prices? Get them all.
I like where this is going.
Zenni.com. Quality prescription glasses starting at $6.95.